What's going on, young agents out there in the world? This is your host, Mitch Gibson, and this is the Most Valuable Producers podcast. Second episode that I've got out right now. There might have been a delay in the episode in between 1 and 2, and I'm just going to say that's a rookie mistake on my end. So bear with us if you're just now hearing this episode. But this one's fun. I'm bringing my boy Sean Kirby from about 10 miles down the road, young agent, performance group. He's got a podcast. He's a family man. Him and his dad and his team over at the performance group in Pendleton, Indiana are killing it, making great things happen. Being a young agent isn't easy. Sean's in a different role than maybe some young agents, maybe agents that are just getting started. And I wanted to get Sean on to kind of get his perspective and learn more about Sean and have Sean be kind of a resource for you young agents, not just locally in the Indiana area, but also in the, national area, all the way across the country. If you need to get in contact with Sean and kind of bounce some ideas off of him, that's what this podcast is about. That we do this podcast for you because we know it's valuable, and it's been valuable to me as well. So being able to bring the ideas and great minds like Sean onto the show to discuss some things that he's going through, some things he's learned along the way in his short few years so far in the industry, just like most of us or most of you listeners out there listening. But Sean's got a sports background as well, and as you guys as we talked about before, and you see from the show cover, the Most Valuable Producers podcast has a baseball driven or a sports mind behind it, and that's because I played collegiate sports. Sean was a competitive wrestler. And sports has a way of dragging, building us into a specific industry, and we kind of all just come together. And I think that's what makes this industry so enjoyable. Is I think the majority of the people either played a sport or was involved in some type of extracurricular activity outside of school that help create them networking opportunities and connections. And there's not a day that I go by in the industry that I don't talk to somebody that I don't have a relationship with somehow, where we connect baseball into the conversation. And part of that's because of the name in my town, last name Gibson means baseball. So that comes a little easy, but Sean's got a great community background. Sean's involved in the community. Sean's got a great podcast. Sean and I have similar podcasts and similar setups, and we'll kind of talk about that. But Sean, I don't have really a great introduction for you, but you're an amazing individual and one of my really good friends. And I appreciate your time today, Sean, and can't wait to dive into the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having. And it was a good intro. You said Sean so many times, and they were all compliments. So I appreciate it absolutely.
Well, hey, if you'll take that as a good introduction, I'm not a Pat McAfee by any means. He sets the bar really high for everybody. But to kind of dive in, so people know a little bit about Sean. Sean lives in Pendleton, Indiana, Marion County, good old corn-fed state, just like where I live out in Knightstown. Sean has a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter. Outside of work, Sean, what do you enjoy doing? What's Sean passionate about, and what's some activities that you like to do outside of insurance?
Yeah, kind of like you said before, our sports backgrounds, you can't ever really get away from them. So as soon as you get done playing them, you start coaching them. So really all I do is I go to work, I come home, I kiss my wife, I say, hey, I got to run and go to practice. I go coach some kids. I come back, I kiss my wife. I either jump on the laptop or I check on the kid. But I mean, we boat in the summer. We do CrossFit, so we try to stay active. We stay, good looking young people. I want to stay this way forever. So wrestling tears my knees up, so I got to do CrossFit to make them even worse.
Well, that's fun. I'm not the exercise type, but I do enjoy baseball. We both coach high school level kids, so that's fun, enjoyable. As we're in this conversation, as we're in this topic, this question, as far as like you said, the busy schedule, because I'm similar to how you are, very high functioning, go. A lot of times, people from a 9-to-5 job might just go home and sit and hang out. I have to be doing something. How has that been, kind of balancing that life, work, coaching, family, balanced life? Is it something that just came easy because you and the wife are on board, or it's probably been tough? What's been keeping you going and being able to get through those things and being able to do a podcast and all that jazz?
You learn by messing up for the most part. I've learned that I am not always the best communicator, whether that's with mostly my wife. She would admit to that. I do my best. I've learned from that. Our relationship has developed having kids at an early age when you're trying to coach and then also try to grow a business and then trying to grow a relationship with your wife and your daughter. I've learned a lot more from screwing that up than I have by doing it the right way and not making those same mistakes twice. So it's all about time management, communication, an open flow of communication, whether that's with my team at work, whether that's with my wife, whether that's with my team that I coach. Everybody we have this open flow of communication, and I've learned that is the best way for me personally, because I'm not always the best at it.
Well, I don't think we all are. I think that's just part of maturity and growing up. And I think every young agent, if they haven't gone through it yet, they are going to. And that's just kind of that, oh, I'd feel like I'm doing too much or I have too much going on. But then we forget about the most important things that we, maybe should have our focuses on. So I think that's something everybody's going to work through and whatnot. But on the insurance side, you're not just your typical producer. You guys offer a variety of different services on the financial side, insurance side. On the insurance side, or Sean Kirby's role at the performance group, what does Sean do on a day-to-day basis, and what's Sean's role as of today?
Yeah, so that's grown. When I first got started in the business, we actually didn't own an insurance agency. When I first started, I went to the University of Iowa, came home and started working actually in our tax accounting division. At that time, it was just a tax accounting and the financial services side. And we kind of knew we had a perpetuation plan for a lady who rented office space for us, who owned an agency. So we had a buy-sell agreement kind of put in place that eventually that was the direction. I got licensed when I was 18 years old and didn't use it till I was 21. So I worked in there, and then we finally did purchase the agency, and then that was it. That's all I did. I learned, the day she retired, I took her seat and we owned a book of business, and I really didn't know anything about anything. And I learned from there. And then now we've grown to we've got 4 staff just on the insurance side. This last year, life throws you curveballs. My stepmom, who runs our tax accounting division, she actually ended up having a brain aneurysm in January. So this year I went back to my roots of when I got started, and I ran our tax accounting department for the last 6 months. But luckily, I've amassed such a great team on the insurance side to kind of, everything happens for a reason. That's what I've been saying the entire time.
Absolutely. And you talked about, going from the finance side to you guys purchasing the book of business and that perpetuation plan, and you kind of just getting your license and thrown into the P&C side. What was one of the most difficult things, other than probably just the uncertainties and the unsure things in the property and casualty world? What was probably the most difficult thing for you, and what was the first step of getting that issue fixed or that upward towards where you guys are now?
I would say, and I'll say this as good as any kid who gets a business put in their lap, the pressure of responsibility. I felt this weight on my shoulders of 47 years of this clientele expecting me to have 47 years of experience. And that was something I shouldn't have done. That's something I've learned today, is that I took it all personal, whether it was the smallest phone call. I was so stressed out all the time, but I needed that because it caused me to learn as fast as possible, because I needed those moments, because I knew nothing, right. Truly. And the best thing my dad's ever done was he told me, he said, I'm never going to field an insurance call. You're going to field every single one, because they're going to skip my office and go to his. So, that trial by fire made me who I am today. And it's actually helped me so much in understanding my staff and the pressure put on them in situations for them to learn from mistakes and let them screw up. You learn more from screwing up and having to fix it than you do doing it,
reading it from a book or whatnot. And I think that kind of goes in 2 hands there. We have the people like you or I, who'd rather dive in and jump and fail. And if it worked, great. I'd rather juggle 9 things and catch 3 or 4 good ones than juggle 2 and 1 fail. Well, I don't like that. I'd rather have multiple things going on. So for you, now you're juggling those multiple things. You've got a fully functioning team. Things are going well. You've got the podcast. Talk to me about the podcast. I want people, I know a lot about, obviously, because we've talked about it before, and I've had you on as a guest host. But for those young agents out there, how's the Performance Group podcast turned into relationships, or even in business in the case in Marion County or in the Pendleton area?
Yeah. So similar to your Inside Hancock County podcast, in 2019 or 2020, it was during the manic phase of finding out that your then fiance is pregnant, and you just go, okay, so how am I going to now not only provide for me, but now this family that I'm about to have? And a podcast wasn't like a financial motivator. It was just, all these ideas are flowing. I'm in, my daughter Ruby's room, who at that point was unborn, painting and trying to put together an IKEA shelf set that my wife bought. And I was listening to Bradley Flowers and Scott Howell on the Insurance Guys podcast, trying to absorb as much information about, the industry as I could to develop my skills, get better, in try to, figure out how I was going to, survive. And I don't know what it was, but February of 2019, I actually recorded my very first Performance Group podcast episode with my dad right here in my house with a microphone. And you can hear Millie, who's right underneath me on my floor, is going clack, clack, click, clack, click, clack. And I didn't release that episode until we actually did a brand change like 11 months later. So the whole idea behind it is to, similar to yours, is to show off people in our community, whether they're business owners, community leaders, or nonprofits, which I've stolen from you now. We also have a show sponsor that's a nonprofit. Just
what I'm talking about. Golf clap for you. I'm impressed.
Absolutely.
Congrats.
But it's one of those things that, like you and I say, it might have been this other idea, but it's morphed over the last, year and a half, 2 years at this point, into today. I interview local business leaders. We do like a Mike and Eve or Q&A with Mike and Eve, where we ask tax and financial questions and answer those. Those are like 6 to 7 minute episodes. And we're going to create this podcast network. Sound familiar? So we're doing that actually now. And the girl, I have a 19-year-old CSR that works for me. She's bilingual. And she's going to start her own podcast called Young De Niro. And she's going to reach out to so she's funny. So she's so Gen Z. She's going to reach out to like streetwear designers that she knows, kids that want to be SoundCloud rappers, kids that want to. So it's a different premise. It's completely different. It's not necessarily insurance related, but neither is the Performance Group.
But Sean, real quick, to tie our listeners back into why, okay, the general why, okay, of why we're doing this. Why is this such I know we've talked about this before, why is this such an asset to have a podcast like the Performance Group podcast, or the Inside Hancock County podcast, or the Young De Niro podcast, like one of your employees is getting to do? Why is that important, especially not just for the agency, but also for that person's brand and their community?
It's exposure. It's, to say it the way Gabby told me the other day, it's to be the plug. It's to be the connector of your community. And there's always been that in insurance. This is just a new way to do it, because before, the insurance agents who would meet everybody on the golf cart would then connect those business owners together, because he's dealing with so many business owners, he or she. But today, media has morphed into this other thing to where we are in the position to put other people on and give them a platform. And at the same point, you're reaping the benefit of, whether it's their insurance, their, network recognizing you, or just being the connector of your community. So it's a beautiful thing. It's turned out to be great for us, and great for our community to get to know the business owners' stories. There's nothing like this.
I agree, and I think that's amazing. And we haven't talked in a while, and that just tells you, well, because of what had happened, with you having to go back to the finance side of things, because of the unfortunate of the hospitalization of was it your mother, correct?
Stepmom, yeah.
Stepmom. You had to go back, so I haven't been able to talk to you because you've been so daggone busy with taxes and all this and all that jazz. So on that state of mind, what would you say between the financial side and the insurance side? Do you get equal, I guess, do you give each of them equal love, or do you like one more than the other? As property and casualty, the insurance became kind of your game changer and what your bread and butter, or what?
So what I've learned is I've never been in the position in the office the same way I am in the wrestling room, because I've always been younger. My dad has always been in the office, but obviously he's taken time off. My stepmom's always been in there, and they've always been the leader of the organization. So what I really fell back on was my coaching role. High school wrestling's taught me a lot about myself as I'm trying to help children and, motivate. And what I learned was I actually don't mind being called a manager or called a coach of staff. That's a role that I accepted for all divisions, not just my own this year. And that's been, it's been fun, honestly. It's stressful. You've got the weight of 3 divisions instead of 1, but there's a lot of reward, and we have excellent staff, awesome people that have really, I couldn't have done anything without them, and truly they did all of it. So
awesome.
It's been really cool.
So with having a good staff, I mean, it's similar size agents, as far as employee wise than you and ours, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. What's your guys' process from customer calling in, quote, referral, whatever it is? As an agent, what is the role for, say I was a producer for you, what is your guys' game plan? Or when he gets that referral or lead or customer to quote, what's the process from start to finish for you guys as far as issuing it all the way through the process, issuing, bind, servicing it, etc., for the longevity of that client? What system, what do you guys use? How's that work? If I called you and got a quote, if I called Performance Group Podcast, Performance Group Podcast.
You could
if I called the Performance Group to get a home and auto insurance quote, what's that process look on a business standpoint with you guys?
Well, actually, just recently changed. So I'll give you the old way, and then I'll show you kind of the way we're headed. So the way we've always done it, right? That's the way we've always done it. There's always got to be this migration of processes and procedures. So the way that it was before Gabby, it was just me. I'd take care of you and we'll figure it out on our way. All we had was an AMS. So today, the way that it's set up is that lead comes in, depending on which producer ends up with it. Producer quotes and then makes all communication with client. Unless they need help, then they'll push that to a CSR. Otherwise, everything falls under that producer until issuance. Our welcome kit starts all with the CSR. So they hit, and I had to pretty much jerry rig this thing into my AMS to create, almost not automated, they're manual, tasks within our system, quote, bind, issue. Where we're at today is a little bit different because we're integrating a 14-day trial with Better Agency. I'll give a shout out to them. And we're trying to
Ayers. Yeah, it's a shout out from Mr. Sean Kirby.
Yes,
I like it.
I shot him a message because what I think Better Agency can change for us is our cross-sell ability to our internal tax and financial clients. To us, our ideal client is that 3-dimensional client, but
sure.
How is that done in a automated fashion, something that truly is not only easy on us as an agency, but keeps our headcount low at the same time, something that we can make a scalable thing if we were to make any acquisitions moving forward. And we're kind of in that 14-day trial period of trying to figure out how things work. So,
sure.
When I say things are moving, I used to use a pipe drive sales center to try to move things through the system. But we had no true automation. So like I said, we've been doing this for 4 years and we're always growing and learning, and due to industry thought leaders like Nicholas Ayers and a lot of the other guys that you see in these forums, I mean, that's where we are today, and it's only going to get better.
That's what I like to hear, and that's cool to hear Better Agency on this side of the Mississippi is kind of cool to hear. And shout out to Nicholas Ayers, not intended, obviously. But do you see projection wise, what's your goal kind of compared to where you guys are at now, compared to the agency that you want to be at? You want to be some big mega agency? Where's the performance group heading, and what's kind of maybe even some of your goals and your dad's goals with the business?
Yeah, so my dad came out of the corporate world. He was corporate life insurance for a long time. He worked his way from, a district manager all the way to president, CEO of two $10 billion companies. And at 40 years old, he walked away from it. So to say that I want to get that big, obviously everything like that comes with the price. And I actually, Gabby yesterday, she was working on stuff for her podcast. And she said, well, what does success mean to you? I said, well, that's a deep question. And you think about what does success mean to the average insurance agent, it goes back to the idea of financial independence, right? What it's changed for me is I want staff to be able to have that, whether that's a work from home 2 days a week, whether that's, they take off whenever they want to, we have backup staff to take their place. My long-term goal is to be able to be an employer in the community that people respect and value. And I don't know how big of a book of business you need for that, but I can tell you that having 3 revenue streams truly changes our opportunities for it.
Sure.
So I don't know.
I like that. I think it's gonna be cool. I mean, obviously, I feel like we're both not gonna go anywhere, especially from the communities where we live at now. So I think to see the growth and see how much even since the last time we've talked, to see that you're looking into that better agency side, and I think that comes with a lot of other different awesome avenues, being able to cross sell and work on marketing, lead gen stuff all in one place. So I commend you for that, and I can't wait to see the continued success. I mean, as a young agent, we're still going to be considered young agents until the big dogs and the old dogs get out of the office and hit the retirement button. But what's been probably the most difficult, thing you've gone through so far as a young agent, whether that's you've messed something up on accident, whether you're scared that it couldn't write that piece of policy that you did, or you struggle with cross selling, whatever it is, what's that thing you struggle with or have struggled with, and how can we maybe start up a conversation to get some things talked about in the young agent side of things in the industry?
I would say the first ever punch in the nose I really got in the industry was we had our largest insurance client at the time walked in. I said, hey, I wanted to talk to you about one of your tractor trailers. And he said, I moved my insurance. I said, what? He goes, I moved it 2 weeks ago. And then he walked past me, walked into my dad's office. And I was the most beet red, tomato-faced person you ever seen, as I slowly, just the air sucked out of me. I walked back to my desk. I sat down, and I was just like, what in the heck just happened? Internally, I'm going, my dad's going to kill me. I'm worthless. I hate myself. Turns out that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the reason I say that is it immediately made it all real. You know what I mean? Like I was always running and running and running and running. As soon as you get punched square in the face, it makes you stop. And you go, okay, that was an expensive mistake. How do I not do that again? I've never made that mistake again. Not once. And because I think back to that moment every single time. And then, so that was 2017. In April of this year, they came back in a quote. That was a maturity thing. That was them realizing I was finally taking the steps that they did not see at that time. And I 100% respect that. And I get that. And when it's your business and now you've got a 20-year-old that's taking care of, all of your stuff, I see why they made that decision. But yeah, I got punched in the nose.
I'm glad you said it, because this is actually, I kind of sound like a podcast genius right now, because episode 3 is going to be a solo episode with me. I just lost a $100,000 account that I was feeling really good about I was going to get, and I got beat. And it was probably the hardest thing possible. And I'm going to talk about that in the next episode. It's going to be me sitting here kind of just explaining the whole process from start to finish about how that account evolved and the things that I've learned through it. And, I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity, but we get smacked in the face, and how are we going to get back up and go? And I've lost many baseball games. I've played my last career baseball game in college. I've cried. We've done it all. We've had to hang things up before. And out of all those things that have happened and taken place and times I've gotten beat or last time I was going to play the game of baseball, this hurt probably the worst. And I'm not even kidding you. This was like the biggest heartbreak. Like, you just got your childhood, dreams of being married to whoever it is, your high school sweetheart just gets failed. I mean, it felt awful, but it was the best thing that happened to me because I'm probably going to get another opportunity next year, and I know what I need to do, and I'm going to win it. So I want to talk about that process and whatnot. We'll talk about that on episode 3 next week. So tune into that. That's going to be a really fun one. All the stuff's obviously on YouTube, and we'll start making clips and clipping some things and getting some things out to you guys, and drive some tactics and tools to you guys on a weekly basis. But to dive back into the show here, Sean, I'm going to wrap up. I've got 5 different things I like to ask, a little bit different than the average questions, but I think they're fun and they bring in a lot of great conversation. For you, playing sports, being smacked in the face early at a young age, having kids, being married, all under the age of 26 years old, literally just like myself. If you had one piece of advice for someone out there might be similar, want to be in your shoes, or is going through some things, what's one piece of advice that you could give somebody?
Just get better today. It's a long game. Insurance is a long game. The best thing you have is being in it early. You're not doing this when you're 40. You're doing this today. Just get better today, and it'll pay off.
You sounded almost like I was listening to a Sunday sermon. That sounded so good. Tip my hat to you there, my brother. All right,
Sure.
fun question. If you could spend 24 hours with anybody, dead or alive, fun, business-wise, whatever, who would it be and why?
Oh, this is a great question. We asked this in the office the other day at a team meeting, and then I felt really dumb for my answer. I'm not going to steal this because I think it's such a good answer.
You're going to say Jeff Bezos.
No. So Eve in my office, and I'm just going to steal his. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. He wanted to go back in time and meet his ancestors to know where he came from. And truly, how did we get to where we are today? And what lessons can be learned on that journey? And who can I learn from? So I'd say I would go back in time and learn from my own family.
I think that's cool. That's a good. You guys just asked that question in the office the other day randomly?
No, we were doing a team meeting, and at that point we were doing a book club too.
Boat club.
Book.
Oh, they said a boat club. I'm like, geez, now you're really living the bougie life, Mr. Kirby. Yeah. Already on a boat, got the yacht named, everything, all that jazz.
Uh-huh.
What's your why?
So this is a long pause, so I don't want any dead airspace.
Don't worry about the dead airspace. It is what it is. That means you're thinking. It means you have a good question or a good answer that's getting ready to probably brew.
I work, and not in a selfish way, but I work for happiness, whether that's my own or the people around me, because this job can be a drag, and I don't want to bring that drag home. So my why is to be happy, and there's a lot of things that can make you happy. That can be money. That can be good deeds. That can be a podcast. That can be conversation with those you don't know. That can be better in your community. That can be making, a staff member's day better. That can be giving that big bonus. That can be coming home early because you have financial freedom from your opportunities to go to that baseball game, to coach that wrestling practice, to work from home, to do a podcast at home during your lunch break. So
I like it, Sean.
That's my why.
I love it. Congratulations. That was probably the best thing I'm ever going to hear today. So just made an impact on me. Last question. If you go anywhere in the world and visit, where would it be?
So actually, I'm going to turn you. So if you see, This is my it's not really a whiteboard, it's more of a clear board. But right up here next to
I feel like I'm in an episode of like NCIS and you've got your
my red string
yeah.
around everything. But up there it says let's travel. And it's got a list of places that my wife and I would like to go someday. As you can see, the United States of America behind me. That was the entire world. That's not the United States.
What's the number one?
I want to go to Australia. I think it's backcountry, it's wild. They talk cooler than us. They've got beaches. They've got great white sharks. Rugby. I don't know. That's on my list. My wife wants to go to Greece, which I get to. So
I like it. I like it. Well, as we wrap up the show here, Sean, two things. Where can people contact you? How can they find you? Give them a little plug on your podcast, how they can find that. And then any other things you have for all of the amazing young agents out there trying to do the same thing we're doing every daggone day. And that's to be the best damn producers we can possibly be. So what you got for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me. My email is Sean, SEAN at performancegroupindiana.com. You can find our website, performancegroupindiana.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Sean Kirby. I'm not hard to find. Shoot me anything that you want to do to get a hold of me, contact me. We can go from there. We're starting a local YPIA committee podcast, should be dropping in October. Don't tell anybody because I wasn't supposed to say that yet. So if you made it to the end of the episode, you're welcome.
Well, it'd probably be a good thing. Whoever listens to this episode might tune in now, so it might help drive some ratings. Might need some return on investment there, Sean.
Yeah, I'll do it. But that stuff's a blast. And then the only thing I wanted to leave people with, this was something I said in our last recording, but I think young people, this is a lesson I learned, and it has changed my perspective on everything. And that is the word of gratitude. And that is to wake up every single day, write down 3 things you're grateful for, because then everything for the rest of the day is gravy because you already have what you wanted. If you can be gracious and you can have gratitude, then it makes that one sale you make today even better. And then that's a compounding effect. It's called karma. It's called, positive vibrations, whatever you want to call it. That is compounding. That 1% every day is going to make you 100% better in 100 days. So you're going to be 3 times better by the end of the year.
And then when you see that $100,000 account come across your face and you write it, it's just a firework July 4th display for you. I promise you. When you write that first $100,000 account, it'll feel like fireworks have gone off everywhere because you're going to feel so excited. You're going to feel so successful. You're going to feel like you've accomplished something, and you should. That's what we want to get you to. That's what we're here to learn. We're here to help. We're here to advise. Let me know if you guys ever need anything. Sean Kirby, go find him on all social media platforms. Sean Kirby, his podcast, the Performance Group Podcast, in good old Madison County, Indiana. I'm Mitch Gibson. That was Sean Kirby from the Performance Group. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Always remember that you can make a difference. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and follow button on YouTube and also on this podcast. I hope to hear from you next week. Can't wait for the next show. Going to dive into the most heartbreakful story I've ever had so far in the insurance business, and I can't wait to unfold it and share that with you to help you guys all learn. I'm Mitch Gibson. Thanks for listening to the Most Valuable Producers Podcast, and always remember that you can make a difference. Peace and take care.